All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. We got a 5-game slate on this Masters Thursday in NBA DFS. I bring that up because it does seem like this is the time of year where we can gain the edge simply by being around around lineup block or even after lineup block. Part of that is going to be you guys being in the Discord chat before lock. Link to that's in the description below. This is going to be a fun slate though, because we do have a lot of kind of injury news to go through. There's a lot of teams that are going to be banged up. The first one is going to be looking at Cleveland. We know that they're going to be without all of their starters. And right now, what I find extremely interesting is that a lot of the Cleveland chalk is not who I would have expected to be chalk. My biggest question is going to be, how many minutes will Ricky Rubio get? Is he actually going to get 31 minutes? That's the biggest question that we have with all the Cleveland Cavalier players, because they got Danny Green, they got Ricky Rubio, they got Robin Lopez. 3 players that, yes, if we knew they were going to get 30 minutes or, a big increase in minutes, we'd be on them a ton. We don't know that. And I kind of think someone like Isaiah Mobley is going to get around 20, 25 minutes. And yes, the minutes are going to be very difficult to project. And yes, we should default to who's ever starting. But if we knew that Mobley was going to be playing 25 minutes, he'd be one of the best values on the slate. And I kind of just think it makes sense to give the younger guys some run in a game like this. So to me, we could gain a big edge here. And it doesn't take much for him to hit value. If he gets 18 fantasy points, that is huge. Okay, you can play him at power forward and center on DraftKings. That's big. And we also look at someone like Osman here. Way too cheap on DraftKings. He's going to be chalk, but he should be chalk. We have seen him in this role before. He can produce, and I expect him to produce. Too cheap. So we got one chalk play that definitely going to be on, and then another one that's just way too low owned. I would say Mobley should be able to go off. I don't really trust Lamar Stevens. I get that he's cheap. Can he go off and break the slate? I don't really see that, and that's kind of why I like Mobley, because if he gets the minutes, I can see him breaking the slate. And then Rubio, yeah, if we get news that he's starting and they're just going to not limit his minutes, then he's fine. That's kind of a wait and see approach for me at this moment. And then Robin Lopez, 18 minutes, that does seem a little bit too low. If Ricky Rubio projected to get 31 and Robin Lopez only to get 18, that doesn't really correlate too much with me. I would say if Rubio is getting a ton of minutes, then I would kind of expect Robin Lopez to also get a lot of minutes. I know that there's a lot more bigs available than guards, so that could be why. But Lopez is another one. If we even at his price point and only getting 18 minutes, he is still a great value there as well. So we could potentially be running out 3 Cavaliers players in our builds. Going along with that, though, Portland is also very banged up. Skylar Mays is going to be chalk, but not extreme chalk. Only coming in at 10% on DraftKings. I would say that's not really even chalk. FanDuel, yes, that's chalk, 21%. He is the only healthy active player we can confirm that's playing tonight. Sharp is questionable. Eubanks is questionable. Knox is questionable. Wofford's questionable. So we don't know if those players are going to play. And so if we get news that Sharp is sitting, then someone like Shaq Harrison is going to be someone that we're looking at. He would be a very strong price point play. But we are just kind of waiting on news. Right now, we know that Skylar Mays is going to be active. Knock on wood, I guess. We don't know for sure. But he'd be the one player for Portland that I feel comfortable playing right now, just because we know that he's going to be active and playing. And then there are 2 other teams I just want to touch on injury-wise. The Spurs, they are pretty banged up. Keldon Johnson is currently a game-time decision. If he sits, that's going to bump up my exposures to Zach Collins and also Branham. He actually sees a big bump in production with Keldon Johnson off the court, with all the other players that are currently off the court. That's looking at Sochan, Vassell, Doug McDermott, and then also we could toss in Keldon Johnson. He'd be someone that would be targeting a little bit more if we get that news that Keldon Johnson sit. If Keldon Johnson plays, that is a very cheap price tag for him as well, just as an FYI on DraftKings. He'd be something that'd be tough to avoid. And then lastly, the other big kind of news that we have on the slate is that Utah is going to be without all their kind of best players. Markkinen's out, Sexton's out, Clarkson's out. So that's going to leave Horton Tucker and also Kelly Olynyk to kind of operate at some high usage roles. We have seen Horton Tucker really be dominant in this kind of role over the past 4 games. I actually don't mind paying up for him. We got shooting guard and small forward eligibility for him, which does make him easier click. If he was just one of those positions, I could see potentially not being able to get to him, but he does open up a lot. Chris Dunn's an okay play considering his price tag. Kelly Olynyk's kind of just an easy plug and play. Sure, if he becomes too chalk, maybe we can find a different pivot. But for now, as I'm recording this video early on in the morning, it does seem like a player that we're going to be targeting. So let's just go ahead and talk about some other values that we have out there. And I'll just start with kind of the DraftKings value that we have. So looking at right now, yes, Rubio's coming in as the best value. I kind of disagree with the Dean Wade, Lamar Stevens value. Okay, but that's more or less because I don't disagree with the minutes. I just think the minutes are going to be dispersed a little bit more to some other players that we could potentially get on. Now, this is something that could update throughout the day. I would say we do not want 3 of those Cleveland players because I don't think the upside, the GPP winning upside is there. I would say Rubio, I'm finding the chalk. Even Nato, I'm fine as well. But like Dean Wade and Lamar Stevens, to me, they just seem a little bit too risky for them to be chalk options. But then from there, we got Skylar Mays popping up there. We got Luka popping up there for Utah. I'm fine with those values. Those are fine. Keldon Johnson is going to be one of the better values if he is active. Dort is currently questionable, but if he plays, he'd be a decent value. Trey Jones, a lot of people are going to like him. Look at the price difference between FanDuel and DraftKings. That's a big difference there. Same thing for Wendell Carter, coming in very cheap on DraftKings compared to FanDuel. And obviously, we can make two centers work there a little bit better. Let's take a peek at the FanDuel value. So once again, I struggle to click on Dean Wade and Lamar Stevens, even if they get 30 minutes. We see them getting 30 fantasy points, DraftKings, FanDuel points. I struggle to see that. I can definitely see Ricky Rubio breaking the slate. I can see Nato getting 25. To me, that's a tough click, but they are kind of coming in low owned, I guess, too. Like Dean Wade, 15% on DraftKings at least. Stevens is chalk, and if he's chalk, I probably would avoid that. And then the rest is kind of what we would expect. So let's just go by projected ownership real quick. So yes, the projected ownership is definitely going more towards kind of the injury news that we have now. A lot of the Cleveland players are high owned. We got Horn Tucker high owned. Embiid is pretty high owned, and he's going to be easy to work in there. Banchero, I really like Banchero's price point, especially going up against a bunch of backups against Cleveland. That to me is going to be appealing. Sharp would be a pretty decent play. We just got to make sure that he's active. I do think Skylar Mays is going to be the way to go right now, because we know he's active. So I'm a little bit surprised that his ownership isn't a little bit higher. Let's switch up and get into FanDuel. FanDuel is looking like it's going to be a lot more chalk. SGA is pulling in a lot of ownership because we have multiple position eligibility for him. Yeah, that is pretty appealing there on FanDuel. He is going to be kind of someone that's tough not to click on FanDuel, just given that. And then from there, kind of what we'd expect. I kind of thought Olynyk and Mays would be higher owned on the slate, so maybe a little bit of a buying opportunity there. And then looking at Zach Collins, I would say on FanDuel, probably properly priced. I would say on DraftKings, we could get to him, but he's forward center eligible. And so if he's getting these minutes, 29 minutes, he's going to be someone that's intriguing there as well. I would say on a 5-game slate, he's coming in a little bit lower owned than I would have expected. So let's go ahead and give you guys a first look build. Obviously, this is going to change throughout the day. The optimizer as well, which is available for Occupy Fantasy members right here. It's going to spit out some different stuff than this, I would say right now. This is going to be updating throughout the day. That's kind of late season NBA DFS. That's what makes it fun. Like yesterday, we were on Josh Huff, who absolutely crushed it. That's what makes it fun. Johnny Davis is another guy that I've just been overweight on the field for the past several slates. That's where you can find edges late in NBA DFS, late in the season NBA DFS. So the reason why I like Mobley is because, on the G League, he's kind of been tearing it up. So if he does get minutes, especially against Orlando, it's an intriguing matchup. Okay. So if he gets even the 15 minutes that he's projected to get, I would say he could easily get to value. He could easily get to 20 fantasy points. So I love the fact that we can play him at power forward or center as well. I'm going to put him in the power forward spot. I think that's going to open up a lot. And heck, I think we could get away with playing Robin Lopez. I'm not going to do that just yet, though. Like I said, like Mays is the one player we know for sure is going to play, and the minutes have been there. The shot attempts have been increasing as well. He's been someone that has been getting a lot of assists. Can he break the slate? I don't know. I would say if we get news that Sharp is out as well, Mays is going to be an easier click. As it sits right now, he's just someone that I feel fine with. Just an early click. Like this is a guy that I'll probably pivot off of later on in the day. Kind of depends on his ownership. Then I do think Wendell Carter is kind of an interesting click as well. We look at the minutes for him. They've been a little bit spread out, but in games that have stayed like close, he's been able to get the run. So this game against Cleveland, you would kind of think the minutes would be there for him. And if they are, I could see him putting up, 30 plus fantasy points. Obviously a little bit of an easier matchup as well. Not terrible. Another player that wasn't really popping up too much was Damian Jones as well as a center. 4.1 is a very cheap price tag for him, I would say. He had 32 minutes in his previous game. And so with Utah being banged up, it wouldn't be too shocking to see him get some additional run. Once again, that's something that we just want to wait for confirmation on via the model. Once more injury information comes in, Joel Embiid becomes a much better play if we get news that Bam is sitting. Bam is currently questionable for Miami, and obviously Embiid has kind of been crushing. Had a little bit of a 3-game stretch in there, a 3-game lull in there, but those were all more difficult matchups. Milwaukee, Toronto, Dallas, those are not really matchups that you'd be targeting a center against. And so it was nice to see him finally have that really good game. And he probably did just need the rest as well. But for me, I'm going to go with Horton Tucker for now at the guard spot. And then I do think I want to go Kelly Olynyk as well. Right now, that's just where the value's at. And I'm fine making those clicks. And we still have a lot of salary left over, like on average, 9.5. It's going to be super easy to pay up for a stud. It's really just going to be deciding which one you want to pay up for. And so I do think Embiid would be an easy click. Remember, he was the top player, or one of the top players, in the OF index. We could go Jokic instead, I guess. That'd be fine with that. Could go SGA as well. And let's see what this looks like with SGA actually instead of Embiid. But personally, I kind of always like to load up on as many bigs as possible. I just feel like that raises the floor of a lineup. And yeah, obviously this wouldn't work. So let's see Jokic in there. And just this price point is a little bit strange here. It's kind of a dead price point range, right? And so that's really going to be kind of part of this slate as well. It's like there's so much value, soft pricing that got to figure out how we want to make it work. And it is a 5-game slate, so there's enough like differentiations we can make, but at the same time, it is a little bit unique in that sense. Here we go. So I got off of Skylar Mays for now. I think he'll be someone I try to end up on, but also more of a lineup filler as it sits right now. And then we could just really go with any of the value that's out there. I guess Stevenson for now, even though I talked him down this whole video, for now, I guess we can put him in there. And this is what I mean. 41 minutes, he only had 17. Like, if he's going to be chalk, I just don't see him like breaking the slate. That's my issue with him. And if I go down from Jokic to Embiid, I'm saving $100. Could go with Dean Wade, which I don't love either. It's definitely interesting. Here's another kind of variation I don't mind lineup wise. I could go with Carter there at the center spot and then get to Durant instead. I'd be fine with that. Could also just go with Zach Collins as well and then go with, I don't know, Butler or Giddey. That'd be fine as well. But that's all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. Make sure to be checking out the Discord chat. Link to that's in the description below, as well as access to the OF model that you just saw, as well as the lineup builder. Links to that's in the description below. All right, let's have a good slate. And as always, good luck.